Welcome back to the Fitness, Wellness, Longevity Podcast. If you are new here, we're all about health and performance of the ageless athlete. We have tons of different guests from the nutrition, medical, and exercise world. So if you're into that type of thing, please subscribe. In today's episode, Scott Hagnes and I are talking about my current training regimen. How often am I training? What kind of exercises am I choosing? And what is my goal in training right now? Guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, share with a friend, and enjoy this episode of the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. Scott, how goes it?
It's going okay. Trying stormy weather.
Oh boy. I'm bracing the storm myself in another way, Scott. I am on daddy duty. Okay. Ooh. And I know that I am preaching to the choir here, not only to you, but those listening. And, so my wife is out of town on some business for 2.5 days. So like the last couple of days, I've had a little bit of help from like a nanny. But other than that, it's like, me, all hands on deck, and along with obviously working. So I'm getting a different perspective what it means to be a working mom / working dad, especially when your spouse isn't available to lend a hand at that given moment. So
yeah,
bear with me, Scott.
Kudos,
give me some sympathy.
Yeah.
So, aside from that, obviously I've had to put my own personal stuff on the back burner for now, but it also leads us to a nice little segue, which is part 2 of our discussion about what our training looks like. So last time, Scott, we got to dive deep into what does your training look like? How frequently are you training? And it seemed like, Scott, there is a great deal of planning, but maybe some flexibility and some modulation in the training as well. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, I generally have a structure, but I change things based on how I'm feeling or the time I have available. Sometimes isn't what I in the ideal setting. So I get done the essentials, and if I can squeeze in other little pieces here and there through the day, I can. If I can't, I'm not going to stress about it because I'm not training for some special competition or anything.
Yeah. And I actually listened back to the podcast and kind of heard what you were doing. And part of me was a little self-conscious about like not having as much of a structure to my programming. But then I realized you're kind of on the opposite side of the newborn stage when it comes to training. So when you were like in the first 2 years of with Keone, was your training as structured as it is now?
Well, yeah, at that time, honestly, it was more structured.
Oh, wow. Make me feel worse, Scott. Thanks.
Well, but things were very different. And so at this time, my wife was able to stay home for the first 2 years. So she didn't work. And I worked at the time, I was at the gym all the time. So I still had time available there. And during those first couple of years, or when I was working with Mark McLaughlin was writing my program, I think during the first couple of years he was around. So I was following it pretty structured, but I wasn't doing much of my own design at that point.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think like if I had somebody writing my program right now, I would prioritize that. And I think right now that's it can't be that way because like, I just feel that as soon as I go, well, I have to get this done, then I know that everything else now is on the back burner and plays second fiddle to my training. And like you said, Scott, like I'm not training for anything. I'm not training for my livelihood. I'm training to stay fit. So
exactly. Yeah. Now, if that was now and I had a newborn right now and the way I'm working from home and this sort of thing. Yeah, my training would take a real the back seat. Yeah. At this point, and it was, I had a certain amount of time I had to be there between my commitments with clients and classes, and I had gaps in the day, and obviously I did my work, but we did live too far. There's no way I could help my wife and run home, in that same gap. So, it wasn't really creating a problem to train.
Yeah, for sure. And almost like when you're at the gym and let's say you had like a 45-minute or an hour block between clients, it's like, boom, that's where I just place my training in because I'm not running home. I'm either going to get some work done while at the gym or I'm going to go ahead and put my training in at that time.
Yep. Yeah. And I almost never did any training on the weekends when I was at home.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so I guess that leads us to what my training looks like now, and I've kind of alluded
so I'm super
to it.
Curious about this evolution, because of course I know what it used to look like.
Yes, because obviously for those of you who don't know, and this is how kind of Scott and I got together, was Scott was my coach for probably like 5 years at least.
It's quite a while, yeah, long time.
Yeah, for sure. So once I started really getting more dedicated and more serious about the sport of fitness. Obviously Scott started writing my program for me, and we started very, very simple, and it got more complex, and obviously the sport evolved. So that means the training had to evolve, and we worked pretty darn hard. Obviously when we were working together, Scott, we had some higher volume moments that were geared towards specific competitions. The ones in particular I remember are regionals, and then Wadapalooza. Which was kind of like a pinnacle for me, which was Wadapalooza. I think 2011, 2012 or something like that. And then we kind of continued to build and tweak and discover and work on weaknesses. And again, like the sport changed so exponentially that like, if you didn't have certain prerequisites, it was just like, well, like you can't even show up to the party. So, that then evolved to probably like 2015, 16. And then like, that's when, I started changing gears a little bit and, started letting go of the competing on a high level and started sinking into more of like that transition of, fitness for sport to fitness for life. And, fast forward to now having a kid for the last, year and a half, right when, he was born, and probably for the first 6 months, I was kind of fighting it a little bit, but I knew that, because I wasn't getting a lot of sleep and, I just wasn't feeling good, then that my training I knew that it would be beating me down worse and was causing too much of a stress on me. So I really didn't I probably did like 4 training sessions a week and didn't have that much intensity to it. The 2 big sessions of the week were done with my wife on Saturday and Sundays, where we would kind of just like get after it and like classic CrossFit stuff, where we would either do a team workout or maybe like an I go, you go kind of thing. And like, basically that was the 2 days a week that we both had enough time that we can like put the baby down and like get after it a little bit. And then that transitioned into us obviously getting a nanny eventually. And then Elliot being more consistent on his sleep schedule. So then it's like, okay, now I'm getting back to like normal with work, but how much training do I need? Right. So as of right now, I tried to like crunch the numbers and be as accurately representative of what's actually going on. So my training looks as follows: 2 days a week of 30 minutes of Z2, Z3 cardio, 2 days a week of strength training, which is mostly structural balance work. And I'll dive into exactly what that looks like, with at the end of those, some high intensity tester / Metcon type thing, which I've started folding in over the last like month or so. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So aside from that, I probably go for about 2 miles of walking a day with a stroller. And then I am active with my clients. And I guess that's something else that kind of brings my activity level up as well. So 3 days, 3 days a week, I work with ladies, a group of ladies for 30 minutes with like light dumbbell work and like core work. So that's like 3 days a week of like, I guess like a kind of mobility / core work kind of deal. I'm literally using 10-pound dumbbells. So it's not like I'm killing myself, but the stuff that they're doing is kind of like core intensive and total body intensive. So it's like a recovery workout, let's say 3 days a week. Then I probably will do a little bit with another client, because we work over Zoom. So like we're both doing like dumbbell shoulder presses or something, and I'll use like a moderate weight, something I can just pick up and just start using. But other than that, those 4 training sessions and then like kind of jumping in with some workouts with some clients, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great, just the base longevity template. You don't need a ton, especially when you have you can maintain, all this ability you've had over the years, like it maybe be a little different if you were just starting out potentially. But so you said the strength workouts are a half hour long, start to finish pretty much?
Yeah. So the strength work will usually be like I'll probably do 3 cycles of a circuit, upper body push, pull. Actually, I won't even do an upper body pull. It'll be an upper body push. It'll be a lower body pull, a lower body push, and then like maybe a core element or breathing element. So I try to stay away from upper body pulling. I might have it like once every 2 training sessions. And I'm turning into the Hulk again.
I was just saying, there's some crazy stuff going on over your way.
Once every other training session, I will do some upper body pulling.
I gotcha.
Just because my natural compensatory pattern is compressing forward from back to front, and I just don't want to. I don't want to get too much of that going on, so hopefully, over time that kind of fixes itself and isn't at least making that worse. Right. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead.
And how long would, you said you do kind of a little tester, metabolic circuit at the end. How long would you say those typically are?
5 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically like, I think it was like a month ago where I was like, I would be scared to do like X workout. And I'm like, I'm going to just start doing them. You know what I mean? And so for instance, 21, 15, 9 calories, assault bike, power snatches with 75 pounds. Right. And just getting used to them, you know what I mean? And for no particular reason, but other than it's like, oh, those scare me. So I just want to work on them.
Yeah.
Another one I would do is like 21, 15, 9 dumbbell thrusters with 50 pounds per hand, cals row. You know, so like those really icky ones that like, and it's not like, oh, can I get better at this? Like, and improve my scores or whatever. It's like, can I be okay with the result when I do those? And can I be okay with just an effort when I do those and not have to put so much emphasis on like, oh, I have to crush this workout or like, whatever outcome that might be. It's just like, oh, just do the workout and just get used to doing those workouts.
I think there's some value in being able to still, kind of go hard like that. Not like, again, not like you're trying to kill yourself to set a new time or something, but still expose your body to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of bang for buck in that stuff.
Yeah.
Eliciting that good stress response there every once in a while. And again, I do it twice a week. And anywhere between 5 and 12 minutes. And I try to choose movements that are not going to be too like beat down on my body. Like, squat clean thrusters and shit. Here's another nice one that I did, 30, 20, 10 dumbbell snatches and wall balls. Just one where you're like, yeah, that's going to hurt. It's like, but it's like, then it's going to be over and you're like, all right, I'm done with it. It's not going to steal my soul or send me to the shadow realm.
Right. Yeah.
This is coming from a guy whose exposure to CrossFit was Monday was Fran, Wednesday was 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 kettlebell swings and burpees. And then Fridays was Cindy for like a year straight. So that was my first, that's what I thought CrossFit was in the beginning. But the other cool thing that I really like is the Z2, Z3 work. So I will do 2 sessions a week of that. One of the sessions will be 30 calorie row, 20 calorie bike, and then like a 400 meter run. And I'll just do that for 30 minutes. And
I love those.
And I like probably do about 3 to 5 minutes of breathing work before that. And then like, I just get it and go. So like a super efficient way of just getting like, it's a 35-minute workout. 30 minutes of it is actually moving in the way that I want. And then the other way I structure that is I'll double the mounts and then do it as like 3 rounds. So I'll do it like 40 or yeah, something like that. I'll do like, so instead of a 20 calorie row, I'll do a 40 calorie row. So it's usually 20, 15, 400. I'll do 40, 30, and then like an 800. And believe it or not, there's actually a substantially different stimulus to that just because you're on those modalities longer. So your pacing is a little bit different, but then there's less transition. So that changes it as well. I'm really, really liking those. I think it's just a good blend of like building that aerobic base, at least keeping it. And it kind of like transitions nicely, or just like it just fits in nicely to like everything else that I'm doing to like complement it. So the way I see like my fitness now is like, okay, like what are all these components that I really need to be generally fit, and which ones am I doing like through my activities of daily living, and what can I do to complement that? Right. So if I was like, so I'm walking probably like 2 to 3 miles a day. If I then just did low intensity cardio work, I'm like, all right, I'm just kind of like doing that already with the walking, right? So I'm like, I need a little something extra than that. So that's where like the Z2, Z3 work comes from. I'm doing like, you know, some core work on a regular basis, 3 days a week with, you know, the clients that I'm working with. So I'm like, all right, I need some lifting that's relatively heavy. But I'm staying away from like pretty much all bilateral movements. So, I might do, I'm trying to think of like if I've even done a bilateral movement now. And I do no upper body pulling either. Vertical pulling. I apologize. Vertical pulling I've completely taken out. Just because like every time I try to do it, I'm just ingraining improper movement patterns. I will play around with it just to test the waters every once in a while. And I notice I am improving on it.
Interesting. Yeah. I will hardly ever do vertical pulling anymore. I do quite a lot of hanging.
Very different. Very different.
Yeah, that's very different. Yeah. But yeah, outside of that, I'll sprinkle it here and there once in a while more as just to see how it is than anything.
Yep. I'll do it as just like to see like, like you said, like where am I going right now? Some banded work. I will try to get some like some isometric work in. So like half kneeling holds, like with your back knee up off the ground, like holding an implement or something like that. I will get some light med ball work in to work some explosive strength, and then also explosive single leg strength as well. So rear foot elevated split squat jumps, height and jumps. So lateral jumps like that.
Yeah.
And I'll do that in a circuit with other exercises. So I'll do like a incline single arm press holding the opposite dumbbell. I'll do like 12 per side there. Then I'll do a front loaded single leg good morning. So like I'll hold like a slam ball against my chest and do a slow eccentric with a pause. And then I'll do like I'll do something like a height and jump then after that, or a rear foot elevated split squat jump. And then I'll throw like a core element in there, like an arm bar deal or some kind of Turkish get up variation. And then I'll do that for a circuit of like for about 20 to 25 minutes of like 3 to 4 sets, depending on like how intense it is. And then after that, that's when I'll kind of transition to the Metcon, and the Metcon preparation is all of like 5 to 10 minutes of just kind of getting my heart rate up gently on like the bike or running or whatever. But the nice thing about it is all that structural balance work just gets me super, super prepped. You know what I mean? Not to mention that a little bit of the explosive strength, explosive body work stuff. Okay, cool. Yep. That gets me moving with contractions and that kind of thing. And along with that, variations of single arm plank holds, kettlebell drags. One thing I definitely want to put in, and I'm working on figuring this out, is I want to get more like sled drags forward, side, and back. So I might get a tire and then fashion it so that I can add weight to it, because I just don't want to be the guy who's dragging noisy ass sled to the neighborhood and ruining the concrete.
Yeah, that's what I did in the early years. Just get a drill. It's kind of a pain to drill, but get a big eye bolt.
Yep.
With a metal plate in there, and then I think we cut a piece of plywood that would fit inside, but not really out without too much difficulty. Right. And works great. Exactly.
So I'll probably get that, and one of the reasons why is the knees over toes guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben Patrick.
I'm not first off, what's your take there?
I mean, I started following him several years ago, maybe 2019, maybe even 2018.
Yeah.
And I did some of the programs for a while. I like their structural balance ratios. A lot of it was built off of Charles Poliquin's, but he added a number of things to it that Poliquin didn't have in it. And I thought it was a great kind of check your boxes for structural balance for the most part. And it had some flexibility metrics in there that I really liked as well, brought that in. It's not, magic. It's not going to fix everybody's knees, but so many people, especially if they've been around a CrossFit or functional training type gym, where we were always told to stay off of our quads and it's all posterior chain, bro, right? You have weak ass knees, and that's probably part of the reason why you have knee pain and also rather immobile knees and ankles. And this definitely fixed that and brought to light some of those things. So, but it doesn't fix everyone's case because there's things going on, and maybe it's more of a issue with loading at higher velocities, exposing the tendons to elasticity. So a little bit on, what you need, but in general, I like it a lot. And my interactions with him were real positive.
Very cool. Very cool. So. Yeah. He seemed very sincere in what he does. And one thing I definitely picked up was especially for older populations, just doing basic like reverse sled drags to get the knee over the toe.
Yes. The Peterson sled drag, or just, basic rear sled drags. And honestly, I had, starting as much as 2 years ago, I started having people do that in warm-ups all the time.
Yeah.
Or we had the dead mill is another one. If folks are training in a commercial gym and you don't want to set up a sled, you just find one of the treadmills and, get set up backwards on the thing, put your butt against the rail, and you push it with the motor off backwards. So we actually have a commercial treadmill here at the house. And, it's a great way to do it. Now you don't even have to load up a sled, and man, 2 minutes of that and your knees are on fire.
Nice. Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind. Wow, that's awesome. Good to know. So I've been integrating that with some of my clients I've been working with, like literally like for like older clients that I work with, I'll take a band, I'll have them hold the handles and I'll pull the band, and then they'll walk backwards and I'll just give them a little bit of resistance like that. Especially like, those clients who are like, oh, I'm bone on bone everywhere. I'm like, okay, cool. So, it's just like a way of just getting them comfortable with getting their knees over their toes. But I never really thought of that of like, oh, anytime you're walking backwards, your knees are going over your toes. So if there was one thing that I wanted to integrate into my training, I think it would be something like that. And I definitely, like you said, I can use it for a warm up or a cool down, or I can use it as like the long grindy stuff in terms of like getting some muscular endurance stuff in.
Yeah, it fits in a number of the different types of circuits, depending on, you can make it fairly low intensity, or you can add it in as a higher intensity one. Yeah.
The other thing that I want to use it as is getting some under load, under tension expansion posteriorly. And that's like the basis of my training, like right now and until it really clears up completely, is getting rid of compression through my like lumbar, mid and thoracic spine. Just because like that has been the bane of my existence in my personal, in my training forever. And I know exactly why it is now. And it clicked yesterday or maybe even today. So the first real intense training that I did when I was like 12, 13 years old, what does every young weightlifter want to get good at?
Bench press.
Yeah, bench press. Okay. And if you said squat, you're weird. Okay. So I learned how to bench with an enormous arch to my back. My ass would be flying off the bench, and it's a leveraged position. And I just imagined like specifically my senior year of college, I benched 275 for 8 at 175 pounds. And my back never touched the bench. And I just imagine like, oh, wow, or just kind of like it clicked. I go, wow, that's why I'm in such an overly developed lumbar lordotic position with like spinal erector reinforcement. It's just like, oh, that just put me in a leveraged position. And I know probably some people listening to this now, like, oh, wow, that makes sense. So like, I've got to reverse all of that compression and all of that overdevelopment of my like lumbar and mid spinal erectors.
Yeah. And then everything along the way was just compounding that, the structure was set, and yeah,
for sure. And then because that's like a dominant movement pattern, it's like, oh, everything becomes that. You know what I mean? Exactly. A push press becomes that. A pull up becomes that, right?
Yeah, that's the strategy for pretty much everything, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of what my purpose in training is right now, is to awesome. Move better, get some decompression through my lumbar and mid back. And body composition wise, like just eating right, staying active. I mean, if I wanted to, like, say there was, in 2 weeks you're going to be in a photo shoot, I'd be like, okay, I can get a photo shoot ready. Like, I don't care. Like hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm letting myself go, but I'm spending all the effort that I would on training on other things, like dialing in my stress management, dialing in my sleep, dialing in my nutrition, dialing in my career, dialing in my relationships. So it's not like, oh, I let everything else go. It's like, oh, I'm spreading this stuff out. But I will say that the 20 years of focus on this stuff allows me to not have to put so much mental effort behind it. So like, and this is preaching to the choir for you, because you've been doing this probably close to 35 years, I imagine now, Scott. But like, this is second nature. We've had so many reps to this. It's like, oh, it doesn't take much effort. That's why this is easy for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at times of for wanting to focus on other areas, we can just revert to simpler things. We know it's well ingrained in our system, and you have those tools, a little bit like I talked about last week. The more tools you have in the toolbox, the more you can pull appropriate to whatever your situation is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
but I like that, I think that's it's an important thing, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because so many of us, especially for coaches, and I imagine a lot of people that listen to this are coaches. We have spent a lot of time focusing on our physical development generally, and we may have spent a lot of time on our nutritional side as well, but those are only two pieces to the overall puzzle. And a lot of people, and I totally throw myself in here too, get a lot of the other areas pretty awry, or maybe we've really neglected them drastically so we can focus so much on our training and nutrition. And those things do have a really big impact, even on things maybe you wouldn't think, right? Your emotional health, for example, has a huge piece to play into how your body's going to handle the food you eat and the ability to recover from the training stress you can put on it. And just at the end of the day, quality of life, right? We have to have all these things in balance. If we want longevity, you can't just train your way to, healthy function for the long haul. It's good. The other stuff's got to be there too.
Absolutely right. Now, Scott, if any coaches or non-coaches are listening and they want to work with old Scott Hagnes, how can they do it?
Reach out to me, scotthagnestraining@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram @scotthagnestraining.
Awesome. I am Sean LaFloch. You can be at flochfitness.com, Floch Fitness on all the socials. We have a big program being announced later this month. It's actually going through beta testing with some particular athletes right now to fine tune everything, but it will be announced later this month, and it's going to be really, really beneficial for anybody who signs up. So if you're wanting to get the latest information and an early bird special, make sure you go to flochfitness.com, get on our mailing list. Scott, I appreciate your time, brother.
Same as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week, man. Take care. Right. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you like what you heard, please go online, give us a 5-star review. It helps grow the podcast more than you know, and it's free to you. Please subscribe, share it with a friend, and we will see you next time with a brand new episode of the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast.